This episode of Well Met was brought to you by listeners like you over on patreon.com/wellmetpodcast. As a thank you, all patrons who are pledging $5 a month or more as of June 30th, 2019 will be eligible to receive the new Well Met Adventurers sticker. In addition, all patrons in the month of June will be entered into a raffle where the winner will receive a free hour of coaching from the co-host of your choice. Thank you for helping support the show.
You're listening to Well Met,
a
Hearthstone podcast brought to you by BlizzPro.com.
Well met.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 201 of Well Met, a Hearthstone podcast brought to you by BlizzPro.com. Today is Monday, June 3rd of 2019, and here in Kansas City, I am your host, J.R. Cook, and this week, we don't have a ton of different people on the show. It's just the normal three here that you know and love over in New Hampshire. We've got Danny and Ray. How's it going, guys?
Thank God the average skill level of the podcast just went up.
Woo! John's on board for sure. I'm kidding. That was a lot of fun, episode 200. And
yeah, the road to 200 was pretty good. I like that.
It was. It was fun to go back and talk to people that I hadn't talked to in a while. And get some fresh perspectives on things. We got a lot of feedback on the different hosts, and I would really like to bring some of those guys back here and there when we can. But episode 200 last week was a blast. I really, really enjoyed that show.
yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed it.
But now we are moving forward, not moving backwards. We weren't moving backwards anyway. We were always moving forwards. But we had some big stuff happen this week in Hearthstone. I've been playing a lot more, I know that, but I'm going to start with Danny. Danny, what have you been up to in this last week?
Man, these with the changes to the cards, the wild meta has gotten shaken up and everyone's playing a lot of different things, but mostly there are a lot of snip-snap OTKs that I've been seeing. Because we're the format that's degenerate, right? So
right.
There are a ton of priest and hunter decks that are trying to combo, making this off. I've seen some whenever you have an effect that reduces the minion down to 1, Mech Warper puts it to 0. So you can go in and do the OTK on Snip Snap. So I've seen a lot of that. I've seen some in Warlock with the summoning portal and all this stuff. The big thing I found out is Snip Snap's animation takes a very long time to go through. So these OTKs, that would have been hilarious if they were to release it for standard without making that change to the Reckless Experimenter, because it would have been kind of like in its essence an APM priest, because it's really tight, meeting like all the snip snaps.
Yeah, no, and I think it's because since it's a legendary card, they add a little bit of extra flair on the animation.
Yeah, there's a sounder, and then it goes. You have a little animation.
Yep. Yeah, I was wondering if that was going to be the case, if it was going to be more of an APM style combo there. We definitely don't have the same issue in standard because they fixed that problem before it ever became a problem.
You gotta give credit for that, though. I'm surprised that they. I'm happy that they went through with these buffs and they recognized something and they changed it before it even went live. Like,
right.
That's honestly the quickest turnaround time I've ever seen on anything that Hearthstone has done. They changed it before it even came out, man.
Yeah. No, it makes it. I definitely give them props for that. What were you gonna say, Ray?
Oh, I was saying that was really awesome, but at the same time, I'm like wondering how in the world did that slip through the cracks? Like, who did like that? Just felt so obvious. But I am very glad that they changed it. That's the important part.
I mean, I explained it a little bit last week, right? It's a shorter lead time. This was a shorter lead time than their normal sets, because this isn't a set. So that takes some into it. And just the fact that, people out there's millions of us and only a handful of them, and we're gonna find it a lot faster than they will.
I prefer this though. I'd prefer them to make a mistake, have the community notice it, and then them utilize the community to make the change. Like, I think that is all the jokes about an indie company. Like, I think that is what a agile quick team will do. That's showing efficiency.
That's exactly what an agile team is supposed to do: is iterate, get feedback, iterate again, and they did it very quickly.
Yeah, that was props to them. Yeah, that was really good for the game. That would have been a disaster if that went live and we all went to Vegas playing Snap OTK. I wonder what a world would look like where that happens. Like, does Hearthstone just implode? Like, is that it?
I bet it's fun. I bet it's fun for the first 2 days. And then I bet it explodes. I bet those first 2 days, though, when you have a degenerate combo and people are trying to refine the deck list and then doing all this stuff. This happens all the time in Wild, where when Psych Melon was printed, the period of the first 2 or 3 days when everyone's like, okay, I know this card is broken. How can I go and actually abuse it to its maximum? And then going through and seeing the people who recognize that and the people who are recognizing, all right, well, this is broken, so everyone's going to be playing it. How can I capitalize on that? That moment of the meta while it's fresh is super awesome. But I mean, after it's been stabilized after a day or two, then it really just starts getting degenerate.
All right. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm glad that Vegas won't be a meme.
Well, it might still be a meme, just not the meme that you want it to be, I guess. Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, you might have a couple pogo hoppers.
Yeah, you might have some pogo hoppers.
That deck is legit, okay? I've been playing that deck. I've been playing that deck since the buffs, and honestly, it might not be better than the other versions of Rogue, but it is a legitimate deck that you will be able to get a lot of wins with it.
I want you to hold that thought, because I definitely want to have this discussion with you a little bit later on Pogo Hopper. I want to have this debate with you.
Okay.
But before we get into that, Ray, I want to ask you what you've been up to this week.
I've been pretty sick, honestly. I got tubes put in my ears yesterday, and then I was kind of sick before that, and then after that happened, today, I was just I felt like I got hit by a truck, so went to the doctors. I have a sinus infection, an ear infection, and blah blah blah. And now I'm on a bunch of medicines, bunch of drugs.
Feeling really hyper, as you told us before the pre-show.
Yeah, well, that's because I'm on a lot of prednisone, which is a steroid, and then now it's it all kicked in at once, and now I'm just sweating my balls off, and just I don't even know, man. It's hitting heavy, dude. I am very woo! It's Wednesday, my dudes.
Oh,
I don't even know how to explain it.
That just reminded me. I completely opened up the show without updating my show notes because I had it set for Monday, and I do believe I said today is Monday, June 3rd, when it's really Wednesday, June 5th. I forgot to update that. That's funny.
It is. I leave for Vegas in exactly 1 week from today, so I really hope that I get better by next Wednesday. I should. They're packing it on strong.
So you fly out Wednesday, and then you compete Friday?
Yeah. But we have to be there for Thursday for media garbage or something. Not really sure. There's a check-in process where you have to do stuff on Friday or Thursday. So
all the Blizzard staff wanted to get out to Vegas early. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
that's what they did. All right, hey, let's get everyone out there, check them in, and then go hit the casino.
No, dude, they have a pool party and stuff. It's super cringy to me because they're just come to this pool party and you guys will get to meet our grandmasters. I'm oh boy, I can't wait to meet socially awkward nerds who also won't be able to have a conversation with me. Super excited for that one, Blizzard. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, just add a little bit of
kidding. I'm not kidding, but I'm kidding at the same time.
No, that's basically how those go. Yeah, that's basically how those go.
Do they really? I mean, I guess there are like, but the players, like, do we really care? Like, do any of the players actually care to meet any of the grandmasters besides maybe like Dog or someone? Like, I'm genuinely curious because
For Joe Schmo, probably, right?
I would bet
the average Joe who qualified this and got a really lucky roll and ended up qualifying for this, like that person probably wants to go.
That
and meet,
person,
like,
that person is excited AF for this, and excited to meet people that they've been watching stream and stuff like that, for sure.
Yeah, but for someone like you who has been to the events with these people, like it's just another day, right?
Yeah, I feel like the Joe Schmoes are gonna be real sad.
I agree on that one.
I don't know. I've been told never meet your heroes; it'll always disappoint you.
That's true. I met you, Ray, and yeah.
Well, I was your hero. Wow, you have a lot of work to do.
I know.
Like, I don't know what one's more sad at that point.
I just need better heroes. I was trying to, set the bar low, but
you definitely set it low.
Oh,
that wasn't the issue.
But no. As for me, I've been playing a lot of ladder in this last week with the new changes. Just trying out different decks. Mostly just going back to my favorite tried and true of this set, and that's the mech hunter with the bombs, the goblin bombs, and that's still doing really well for me for the most part. So I've been playing that, and as you heard at the beginning of the show, I've been doing a handful of fun stuff on the side for the show. We have that special offer now on the Patreon where you can go and anybody that pledges $5 or more, they'll get a sticker. I'm hoping to get them in here pretty soon so I can kind of show them off. I do have a picture of what it should look like. We designed that. We're hoping to do some more of that here pretty soon. Maybe get some t-shirts at a higher tier sometime in the near future and things like that. So hopefully we got some pretty cool stuff for the Patreon here as far as like physical rewards and stuff like that. So
they look really nice. I'm excited.
I really like the art that the artist that we got in her style, like what she did with us. I don't know. I just really like that art style. So other people may not, but yeah.
No, I like it a lot. And then you made it like, I liked how you like the text box that says "Well Met Podcast."
Mm-hmm.
You made it like the shading of the artwork. You know what I mean? Like
right.
Like when the first design of it, you had it like it was just kind of like a white box, and then you changed it.
Yep.
To like match the artwork.
Yep. Made it more
really nice.
Yeah, made it more.
I'm still voting
like
for Donut Plaid.
Donut Plaid. No.
Donut Plaid?
Yeah, like plaid's like a pattern, like tessellated donuts.
Oh, you and your donuts, dude.
Yeah, maybe we'll get a Donut Plaid shirt sometime in the near future. We'll see. If you're interested in that, let us know. But I have a feeling, Danny, you're not going to get.
I'm the only person
I have a feeling we're not going to get any replies.
Not only listen to this podcast, but potentially in the world who would want that T-shirt.
Exactly.
I mean, if we make them and then they sell well, it's like, all right, who bought the 20? And then it's all from Danny.
Yeah. No, I would totally do that, right? If we put that out, I would buy a bunch of the shirts so that it would look good. Of course.
Oh,
I could definitely see you doing that.
I'd buy a bunch, wear one different shade every day. The blue donut shirt, the green donut shirt.
Yo, I would buy the Danny the Donuts. I would buy Danny Donut shirts. Hell yeah.
All right, Danny Donuts merch coming out to you.
All right.
Summer 2019.
Well, in the meantime, we should probably talk a little bit more about Hearthstone and get into the news of the week.
This week in Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft.
So the first man, I can't talk. The first big news of the week, this week, in my opinion, was HearthPwn announcing that they're shutting down.
Whew.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, they were kind of my go-to for news as it was breaking, as far as like, especially during like reveal season. they were always like way on top of that and getting the cards translated over to English and stuff like that. They're pretty good at being right on top of that. But beyond that, I don't know. They weren't my go-to on like for like deck lists and stuff like that. Like other sites, I think had done a better job of that.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, the big thing for me with HearthPwn shutting down is that it was one of the initial sites, though. This was like before HS Replay, before any of the meta snapshots started out. Like HearthPwn was the Hearthstone website, so I think that it's kind of symbolic of the site being done. And I mean, now the thing is, it's become obsolete in the deck list section, right?
Right.
But the thing is, the things that it did well have been broken out in other places. Like there's a Discord now that gives you updates specifically only when the cards come out. You have different things that serve it better, I think, than the website. And I don't know. Do we know why it was shut down? Was it Curse pulling out for money or something?
Yeah. So Curse recently got bought by another company, and they're shutting down some of their sites basically. They shut down Diablo fans not too long ago. Now they're shutting down Hearthstone. I think the vision to go into the future is they'll probably just have like MMO champion, and that'll probably be about it. To be honest, like fan sites in general just do not make a lot of money at all. Like that whole media is going the way of the dodo bird. And this is coming from someone that runs a fan site, and someone who's been working for fan sites for 20 years now. They used to be the go-to things, the big things, and now, ever since social media became what it is today, fan sites have a harder and harder time competing with that because you can get your news faster on Twitter, on Facebook. You can follow individuals now on either of those platforms. You can follow individuals on Twitch, on YouTube, and those are just bigger platforms and easier to share. And so fan sites in general, like you don't make a lot of money from them either, like hardly any, because advertising for that kind of content is very tough in general, and it's a tough business now.
Yeah. I mean, the old Hearthstone website was atrocious. If you ever tried to do it without an ad blocker or on your phone, like you'd get your device would get crippled by ads.
Yeah. No,
really.
Yep.
Yeah, it was horrible.
And that's the only way you can make your money, unfortunately. I mean, BlizzPro is kind of the same way. Like, I've been very open about, okay, we have ads, but I'm gonna try to keep them to a minimum. But because I do that, we don't make anything. I mean, we make enough to pay our hosting bills, and that's it. Whereas Hearthstone is owned by a corporation, they need to pay writers, they need to pay the infrastructure. They're a lot bigger, so their hosting bills are a lot bigger as well. So the way that you increase that revenue is by increasing what you can do with your ads.
Right, man. That's sad because it's like, I don't know. Hearthstone feels like it's like OG.
Yeah, it's the granddad of Hearthstone websites.
Yeah. You guys say that, and I'm just like, man,
BlizzPro is pretty good too.
Well, it's still around, right?
No,
So, I mean, if
I know.
in the future that happens, like that's the biggest news. But like, we're still going strong.
No, it's just funny because you guys talk about like, oh, it was the original, and I'm like, man, I've been writing about Hearthstone since day one and already had a website for it. What are you guys talking about?
It's true.
Just no one knew about it, and hardly anybody still does. But
JR was the true OG.
I wouldn't go that far. We also just, we just didn't have the manpower either to put out the type of the amount of content, I should say, that Hearthstone was able to, or the or even self-serving content where you got the community making the content for you. We just don't have the infrastructure for any of that, so you kind of fall behind because of it.
I mean, I was a writer on the on the website for a period.
Yeah,
so.
that can tell you of the quality, right?
That can tell you what it is.
What?
I'm just joking. I really like the quality of our stuff.
Yeah. No, the quality is pretty good, and I not to not to pat myself on the back, but I consider myself a fairly good writer.
That is exactly a pat on the back.
Right? I think for the most part, what I'm trying to say here is if you enjoy fan sites and you want to see them be successful, definitely help support them if you can, because this is gonna be happening more and more in the coming years. I do believe. But beyond that, in the actual Hearthstone news, we got our new buffs. The meta has changed, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Okay. I was gonna say it seems like it has for me.
Oh, in Wild it's drastically different.
Like how different? Like, well, you kind of talked about it a little bit with Snip Snap, right? But is there more beyond that?
Is just the tip of the iceberg because so Paladin has become nuts with Christology just in general because we have like just Odd Paladin and any mech Paladin right now are just insane. It's gotten to the point where Hand Buff Paladin is like now a mid-range style deck that's fairly good, which is I never thought I'd ever say that, but a lot of people are trying out some of these hand buff in Wild at least, and these things are kind of like really strong. So aggro now has a presence. There was a period for about the week when the nerfs were gone, when Kingsbane Rogue was under, like where aggro was like a little weak. And the only aggro deck that was like fairly good was like Odd Paladin. But now like you double down Odd Paladin, Mech Paladin, like some of these other decks, aggro is a lot stronger. And then, I mean, that's one of the things that's definitely pushing our meta. But a lot of other cards are having experimentation with like Luna's Pocket Galaxy there's a Malygos mage that's running like Ice Lances, and you're more like a control like freeze mage. It's running Geppetto and it's like a good freeze mage deck now that's seeing some experimentation. Probably not going to stick, but there's all these things are going. Gloop Sprayer makes Malygos OTK with Aviana Coon because you're using the Psych Melon, and now that gets pulled out alongside your Aviana Coon and all that stuff. So a lot of really interesting influences on the Wild meta so far, and I think that a lot of it hasn't scratched the surface just because there's so much potential for decks. So that I have not seen any Pogo-Rogo. I bet there's probably a Quest Rogue that does Pogo-Rogo really, really well. So I'd be excited to see that. So there are a lot of potential in Wild, and the meta is nowhere close to being stable at the moment.
I don't know why you would want to use Pogo-Rogo with the Quest.
Because when you play it, it's a 4-mana. It's a 4/4 that gets the buff.
Oh, it still gets the buff. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, just like Edwin does.
Okay,
yeah.
I just assumed that it didn't, but now I understand.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm surprised that like the Gloop sprayers and stuff like that are seeing play. That's funny to me. That's really cool.
I think that's really neat. And then the Death Rattle Hunter has had a resurgence as well because of the well-statted Baron Revendare. I don't know the name of the card. Is it Necromechanic or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that has just made like Death Rattle Hunter has always been a like fringe deck, and I feel that a lot of the cards that were buffed were really like in some of these tier 3, tier 4 decks. And now you're saying, okay, well, I could have played this and maybe won a game or two off a couple of tier 1 decks, but some of these decks can now start holding their own. And I just really enjoy that. I enjoy that these cards come in, and especially with the toolbox that you have in Wild, where you can build a deck around this and it's not going to be bad. I think that is definitely something very interesting that you can start seeing.
So if you were to go off the top of your head on what you feel right now would be like the top 3 tier 1 decks, what would you say they are?
It's still Big Priest. Big Priest is probably second. I would say some form of Paladin, whether it probably Odd Paladin still, but I mean Mech Paladin's given it a run for its money. And then I don't know what the third deck is.
So, am I hearing this correctly then that the top tier decks are still, before the buffs, are still the top tier decks after the buffs, but now you're seeing a shift in some of the lower tier decks getting
Yeah, well,
more
I mean,
prominent?
if you were doing like a tier, I think that those two decks just in general drive the wild meta. There are always one or two decks that like drive how the meta operates in wild. You always have one or two decks that are like, I don't want to say tier S, like they're broken, but you need to build your deck around beating these decks, or you will just lose on ladder. Whereas I feel that standard might be a little bit more rocks, paper, scissors, where you can hedge your bets against a couple of them. I don't think that's possible in wild, just at how dominant some of these decks are. So I think that most of the time the capstone decks in wild stay the same, but the rest of the meta around it shifts like back and forth. You'll have tier 2 consists of like 8 to 10 decks one week, and then the next week like 4 of those decks have changed out with 5 other ones. Like that's what I foresee the wild that's how I've seen wild trend over time. And I think that it's, I mean, as soon as you have a shakeup, like everything's in flux.
I see. So,
It's true.
so Ray, how about you? What have you been seeing in standard?
Oh man, there's been a lot of wacky stuff happening in standard. Mainly the Pogo-Rogo shenanigans, as you said before.
Yeah,
That's actually a pretty relevant thing right now, actually. Like, I never thought I would say that Pogo-Rogo is like super relevant, but I guess it is. So there's that.
So-
That's
and I'm just
happening.
wondering how. I'm wondering how.
Walk me through this a little bit. I haven't been watching much standard recently. So like what is the shell of this deck? What is it built around? It's not like a control rogue, right? It's more like a tempo based thing that runs this, or
Well, there's a bunch of different variants of it. There's like variants that are just playing 4 Daring Escape, 4 of the scheme that shuffles 4, or not 4. Why do I keep saying 4? 2.
been playing too much Magic, huh?
Yeah, literally. Actually, though, that's why I'm thinking in 4s. No, but 2 lab recruiters, that kind of stuff. So your goal is to
Daring Escape is the 1 mana card that brings all the minions back to your hand, right?
Yeah.
And then the Togwile Scheme is the one that you can it upgrades every time it's in your hand, and you can play it and put that many of target creature back into your deck.
Correct.
And what was the third one? The is that the 3/2 that you can put 3 copies of a card, 3 copies of a friendly minion into your deck? Yep.
Yeah, the lab recruiter.
Yep.
So it's kind of just like that version's just based around solely having the Pogo-Rogo, or what is it called? What is the rabbit called? Is it called
Pogo Hopper?
Pogo Hopper. Okay. Yeah, that version just like solely based around that. And then the version that I've been playing is a lot more tempo based. Like I'm playing double like Evil Miscreant and just more, I guess, more cards that are better against stuff like aggro decks. So like Magical Carpet, Magic Carpet, that kind of stuff, which is
Watching too much Aladdin.
actually though. So Magic Carpet's a card that whenever you play 1-costed minion and gets +1/+1 in Rush, it's a card that we've seen a lot in Zoo previously. Maybe not so much anymore in today's I don't know, today's world. We don't really see it as often, but we saw it a lot in Zoo previously.
How does the interaction work with the Pogo with a carpet? Does it get buffed and then get Rush, or?
Well, it's for 1-cost minions, so it wouldn't matter which way it works.
Oh, it's 1-cost minions. I thought it was. I was thinking about Hobgoblin for a second.
Yeah, so it wouldn't matter which order it works. I actually originally thought that. I was like, wait, does this work? And then I read Magic Carpet because I saw somebody else playing it. Then I read Magic Carpet and I was like, oh, I'm just an idiot. It works for all 1-cost minions, so no matter which way. I know what you were thinking. You were thinking 1 attack, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, it's 1-costed minion, so it works with lackeys too. So like against aggro, your goal is to just get Evil Miscreant and then just like Magic Carpet your lackeys and like bounce them. You play double Shadow Step, obviously. So Like you have an alternate game plan, even against control. Like if you don't draw your pogo hoppers, you just have an alternate game plan that is actually just still incredibly powerful, even though it's just rush out lackeys and hit them in the face and do stuff. But the deck is incredibly versatile, and it's actually really difficult to play, in my opinion. Like play optimally. I feel like people are taking the deck as a meme because they're actually just not playing against people who know how to play the deck correctly.
And maybe that's my problem here, is because I said on Twitter yesterday, and I said on our Discord as well. I'm like, thanks to Orange and Dog saying this deck is actually good, because people are playing it and I'm destroying them, because I'm like 15-0 against this deck, and it's because what happens is they're sitting there trying to get their pogo hoppers out, and by the time they get maybe a 5-5 and a 7-7, they're already dead, because I'm just sitting out there putting minions on the board that they're not able to deal with, and I just go face and let them play solitaire over on their side of the board and not do anything. So I'm still not understanding how this deck is good, because I'm destroying it every time I'm playing it. But you're saying they're playing it wrong. So how are they playing it wrong?
I think if they're building it correctly, if they're building it to a way where they have evil miscreants, they have stuff
and they have
that
this
is more defensive.
I've played against decks that have this.
They're probably just not going for that game plan, right? Like they're probably thinking, oh, okay, I need to rush Pogo Hopper and get it as big as I can, as quickly as I can, and then like use Magic Carpet in combination with the Pogo Hopper to try to clear off boards, when in reality, you want things like Prep Vanish, so you can do that on turn 4 to just relieve pressure. You want Spirit of the Shark, so you can go with like crazy Miscreant turns where you just go like backstab Miscreant on, like you play Spirit of the Shark on 4 and then you play Evil Miscreant with combo, or like prep something out, and then you just go crazy with the lackeys because they all do double the battle cries. And
it's nuts. Spirit of the Shark with the lackeys is insane. I was playing against an even shaman at one point, and I was playing, this was before the nerfs came out, but the guy plays a sea giant and I had the shark on the board, and I literally had the lackey that dealt 2 damage and a shadow step in my hand as the 2 cards. I went in and I killed a sea giant, and I'm like, this is just insane.
Yeah, I also see people value the Pogo Hopper so highly in matchups where you don't really need to value it as highly as you do. Like against Zoo, for example, I've seen people like hold it and then try to go for like turn 3. They play it with like Useful Brewmaster, which I actually don't even think is that good in the deck, by the way. I think Useful Brewmaster is a 1 of at most. Maybe even you might not even play it. Like I just don't think it's that good. But they'll do stuff like they'll play the Pogo Hopper and then they'll shadow step it back and then they'll like hold it. And I'm just the kind of player that I'll just play it on 1 if I have it, and then hopefully if I draw the second one, it'll be more useful then. But I'll just play it on 1 as a 1/1 for 1, and then turn 2 maybe with Dagger, it'll help me contest something against Murloc Shaman, just like playing a 1/1 on turn 1 going first. Sometimes that's just not bad. And people value stuff like that too highly, and in my experience, you just kind of want to stay alive and then go for the lackey plan against aggro stuffs. And you play the Pogo Hopper just as a minion. Like I don't really value it at all.
So calling it a Pogo Hopper deck is kind of a misnomer then, because that's not necessarily your win condition. I mean, it's your win condition of the deck, but it's not the main purpose of the deck. What you're telling me is getting value off the lackeys is the big purpose of the deck.
It depends on the matchup, right? Like if you're playing against Warrior, you're playing against Mage, Pogo Hopper is the strategy there. But if you're playing against aggro, like if you're playing against Murloc Shaman, if you're playing against Zoo, which are the problematic matchups, then your goal is definitely not Pogo Hopper at all. Like it's a trap that a lot of people are baited into when they play against aggro.
And I think that's the reason why, is because I've been playing, whenever I run into it, I've been playing my Mech Hunter deck, which is basically an aggro deck, right? It's about getting them down as quickly as possible. And I see everybody that I've seen play like sits there and just cycles Pogo Hoppers, and they're dead before they even hit me in the face.
Oh yeah, I mean the other alternative strategy against aggro too is just Big Edwin Van Cleef. That's still a card. Like, you're playing prep, backstab, shadow step. You're playing a bajillion 1-drops. Like, it's so easy to get a big Van Cleef as well in this deck. Like, I've had turns against aggro decks where I'll just go Pogo Hopper on 1, and then they don't kill it, or it just like stays there. Like, if I'm going first, I'll play Pogo Hopper on 1. They'll play a 1-drop, and then turn 2, I'll play something
like Shadow
turn
Step
3,
and then coin. Yeah.
well, no, like a novice, like any creature, like a novice engineer, lab recruiter, just something that stays on the board. Turn 3, if a minion sticks, you just have like Shadow Step, prep, sap, like clear their board, get a giant Van Cleef. Like, that's still just huge.
Yeah, you're still playing Rogue.
Like, you're still playing Rogue with Van Cleef, and you can do some crazy stuff with that.
Yeah.
And
I mean, definitely.
I was going to say, Vanish is also huge too, especially against stuff like those mech decks. I'm playing Sap and Vanish in my deck, and I think that Sap and Vanish are insane. A lot of people aren't playing Sap, but I feel like with these mech decks and stuff, like Sap's been really
huge.
powerful.
Yeah, whenever I play against Rogue or mainly Rogue, is I definitely don't use Magnetic as much as I do against other decks, just for the simple fact that I know that they're sitting there with a sap and they're gonna, return a bad minion to my hand, and I'm gonna lose the bigger minion's effect. Unless, there's a case where I'm like, oh, I just really need this extra 5 damage right here, and I don't care if they return it back.
Right.
Mhm.
So the question about whether or not Pogo Hopper is actually viable, that's another story, because it's not really been tested whether or not this type of rogue is actually better or worse than like the pseudo like control waggle rogue, or whatever you want to call it, the Togwaggle, Heist Baron Togwaggle, like
Right.
that kind of rogue. I don't know. I have no idea whether or not this version is more efficient than that version, or better, or however you want to call it. I have no idea. I just know that this version, once you get good at playing it, it's not a bad deck. It's definitely like tier 2 at worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems what it is. It seems like there's definitely a learning curve just based off of the conversation that we've had. And I feel that those types of decks are slept on a bit when a set comes out. Whenever anything comes out, the decks that you need to have played a good 50 matchups or whatever to understand it, like the general Hearthstone populace might not be able to just grind that out and understand that.
Yeah, what I imagine is what happened is you've got people like Orange and Dog who say Pogo Hopper is really good. So you got these pros playing it and seeing success with it. And then, it gets retweeted by Irun or whatever his name is on Twitter, and or posted on HS Top Decks or wherever you get your decks from. And then people just
No longer HearthPwn.
right? People just grab a hold of that deck, and it's like, oh, this is, Pogo Hopper is apparently good, so I'm going to copy and play it right now. And everybody is playing it wrong, because
I mean,
based on what Ray's saying, they should be beating me more than 0% of the time. But right now, they're beating me 0% of the time.
It's a really, like, I don't know. I streamed the deck yesterday or the day before, and it took me a bit. Like, I tanked to rank 5, and then I just like won with only 2 losses up to rank 2. So it's like, once it clicked, and then I was like, people were watching me play, and they're like, "How the heck did you win that game?" Like, I'd be playing against Zoo, and then all of a sudden, like a huge swing turn happens with Magic Carpet, and I'm just winning out of nowhere. Like, I'm at like 10 life, I'm about to die, and then all of a sudden I'm winning because I had Vanish into like a Magic Carpet turn with lackeys, and now I'm just like so far ahead that I'm just destroying them, and it was like out of nowhere. So I just feel like you have to play the deck a lot before it's or maybe not even playing it a lot makes you better at it. Maybe just like knowing how to play it. So I feel like at low ranks, you could still grind the deck and never get any better because you're just not you just don't have the knowledge. You know what I mean? Like, there are so many people who play this game that grind because they think just playing will make them better, when playing doesn't necessarily make you better unless you're like playing to improve at the game. So I don't know why people played this game bad. These are questions that are just I'm unable to answer that, man. I don't know why people are bad.
So what other changes have you seen? I've seen Mage take a more prominent role
Yep, mage is
lately.
huge.
Yep.
For
I haven't
sure.
seen any paladins yet, which has surprised me so far.
Really,
But I feel like I should.
I have seen paladins, so I don't know.
What are they running? What are they running?
The paladins?
Yeah. Is it just is it like the OTK paladin?
Yeah.
I was thinking I was trying to figure out if there's like an aggro deck for standard for paladin, because Christology is just nuts in drawing cards just in general, and I would think that there's probably some aggro stuff, but maybe you guys just don't have the tools to make that happen.
You know, I feel like there is an aggro deck that is out there, but it's just not been discovered yet, or somebody just hasn't made that. Somebody hasn't clicked the tweet button yet. You know.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a thing.
I'm still seeing a lot of Bomb Warrior. That hasn't changed at all.
Really, Bomb Warrior?
Yeah, I see that all the time right now.
Yeah, but I mean, it also takes time for the new changes to trickle down the ladder. That happens a lot too.
Yeah, I think Bomb Warrior's still good. I think it's just one of those decks that isn't as exciting as it was before. Like, it's kind of old news now. And these new Pogo like all these decks that are just like complete shenanigans are the flavor of the week, or however you want to phrase it.
Seeing a lot of Secret Hunter.
Secret Hunter?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, I haven't seen much Secret Hunter. That's different.
That seems to be pretty popular at the moment. And I've just been seeing a lot of mech shenanigans in general, which I kind of expected.
I find it funny looking at Hunter and Wild versus Hunter and Standard, just the mech versions of the deck. It's kind of crazy because, in my opinion, like you had mentioned before, that the Hunter, like Mech Hunter, was like an aggro deck, but in my opinion, like our deck is like hyper aggressive with Metal Tooth Leaper and like Mech Warper. You're running like Clockwork Goblins, and like you're running really aggressive cards. And I think that like Ursatron or whatever is not even considered to be played in the deck. Like, I feel that a lot of the decks that you guys are playing for Mech Hunter is more like a mid-range version of the deck.
I mean, it is kind of mid-range. It's definitely not like super aggro. But it can knock someone down very quickly if they're not able to control the board early. I have won games turn 4 or 5 sometimes. But most of the times it's usually a slower burn than that.
Yeah, there's also just not a lot of decks that I would consider. Like, the only 2 aggro decks right now are really Zoo and Murloc Shaman. And Hunter, like Mech Hunter and Midrange Hunter, they're kind of the closest thing to aggro that you have besides Murlocs and Zoo.
Right.
So it almost just kind of falls under that category by default, just because there's nothing else that are really close to an aggro deck, even if it feels more like a mid-range deck for Mech Hunter.
Yeah, and I play, and in the version that I play a lot of Goblin Bombs, a lot of Magnetic Dudes. I play the 1/2 mech that makes, other mechs in my hand cheaper. I play Leroy, and I also play Deathwing.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Why are we playing Deathwing? Hello?
Why?
Do you have is there a tutor in Standard for Deathwing?
No, but the reason why I play Deathwing is for times that I need to clear the board. I'm close to winning. I just need to, clear the board, get rid of everything. If I have bombs in play, it destroys them, does damage to their face. It's won me a few games. It's one of those things where it can flip the switch for me if I need it. Because I've got a lot of board clears, because I have the what's the name? Was it the Ultra? I don't remember the name. The 4/4 that does 1 damage to everything on the board, and then you pair
the 6-mana guy.
Yeah,
I know
the
you're talking
6-mana
about.
guy.
I don't know the name.
Yeah, the 6-mana guy that does that. He's a 4/4 that does 1 to everything, and then you pair him with the 2/2 with poison.
Yeah,
and so you got your board clear there, and so a lot of times I can sit there and clear the board multiple times with that combo, and then I had a game, in fact, earlier today, where clearing the board that many times is what won me the game, because the guy just ended up conceding because he was able to hex my guy. He was able to hex it again. when I ran it out the second time. Then I put Deathwing down, and he just conceded.
Deathwing will do it.
Yep. So that's the reason why Deathwing's in there.
It's it feels like so random.
Yeah,
It's like-
just seem out there.
It's just like, yo, what's up? I'm Deathwing. Yeah, I'm here to party.
It's funny because every time I put it down, is people are just you can tell people are like, what, and they just take a minute to respond.
That's not a hunter card.
I mean, I would also react
totally
the same way.
unexpected. It's totally unexpected, and I like it. I like it in the deck. I really do.
Yeah.
That's all that counts at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And then we have a rule in Wild that if you have a shell of a deck that's really strong, you can cut one or two good cards and put in not the best cards in the slot, but cards that'll go through and make the experience a lot more fun. Like there's one of the guys on Team One Trick. He goes through and an even shaman, instead of like piloted shredders, he'll go in and to like troll with his chat on Twitch. He'll go in and put the pinatas, mechanics pinatas, and then I mean it's not as like try hard, but you're going through and you have those moments where you pull like an Antonitis or something, and then like all these crazy things can happen, and it makes it more fun in that perspective.
All right.
That does sound fun.
Yeah. Also, I've been seeing a lot of Token Druid as well.
Token Druid,
Yep.
Really? That is not something that I have. I have not seen that at all. I have like the opposite experience of you, I guess.
Well,
I'm kinda-
we're on different levels of the ladder, right? I mean, you're at a higher level of the ladder than I am, so I'm seeing, for obvious reasons, I'm going to be seeing different things.
Right. That's true. I guess I haven't been like, since the change on ladder. It's just like I haven't actually experienced ladder like before. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like since they made those changes, I haven't. I don't know. I just haven't played like memes or like played against like terrible players that suck.
Well,
Have you guys seen any Inner Fire stuff now that the arms card is down
yes,
to 2?
yes, I've run into a couple priests that have been playing that with extra arms. None of them have beat me yet. They've all been pretty awful so far, just because they're too slow.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, in Wild, like Radiant Elemental is just such a broken card with that. If you go down, you play Northshire Cleric, and then you play that, and you just start buffing all your stuff up. Like, Inner Fire is still where it's been in the meta. There are a couple decks like that in Wild, right, where no one plays them, but like if you go around playing them, they're like, I don't know, there are a lot of decks like that, and I have a suspicion in Wild that, like, similar to the Mech Paladin standard, or the Mech whatever in standard, the aggro Paladin that doesn't exist, like, people just haven't tried it out yet, or no one's tweeted about it, and like there are probably some decks that are really, really strong you just don't know about.
Right.
Yeah,
A lot of unexplored territory.
I definitely agree with that one. There's a lot of room for people to try out wacky stuff that I don't know, somebody's gonna make a tweet at some point and we're gonna see some crazy decks. It's gonna happen.
But
It might not have happened yet, but it's gonna happen.
yeah,
It's on the horizon.
But getting outside of ladder here, we had a new announcement coming from the Hearthstone team 2 days ago, and we have a new bundle along with a new card back and a new hero, and it's the Hearthstone Masters bundle for $19.99. You can receive 10 Rise of Shadows packs, 10 Rastakon's Rumble packs, the new Stolen Thunder card back, and Thunder King Shaman hero. But the Masters bundle will directly boost the prize pool at our 2019 Hearthstone Masters Tours events up to an additional $250,000 in prizing per tournament. So we're seeing a cap of $750,000 of this that is directly funneled into the Masters tournament if people buy this.
Yeah,
this has to excite you, Ray.
It is exciting. The only thing I'm sad about is the cap, but you know, Blizzard is a company and they got to make their dollars.
Did they say if they were putting all of it to there, or if they were doing a percentage of it?
No, it's 50-50 to begin with. So if 50% of the sales equals 750,000, exceeds 750,000.
All right.
So
So
it's like,
that's interesting because we'll be able to tell, right? We'll be able to, through this, we'll be able to tell how much money Hearthstone made by how much they're adding into the prize pool.
in
But they're
theory.
capping the prize pool, so they could cap.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm thinking along the lines of if they get below the cap. If you reach the cap, they made $500,000 on it or whatever.
Right.
But if they go and it's like, oh, they only made 100,000, like, oh, they, you know,
Right. If they get the cap, it's $1.5 million.
yeah.
So that's I don't know. I think the cap is interesting. I've seen a few takes on it. I agree that they probably shouldn't have capped it, but I also think that the reason why they cap it is because they probably had a goal in place and they want to make sure that they hit that goal, and they probably decided that 750,000 was going. They would probably easily be able to hit that goal. Because it would be embarrassing.
It would be really embarrassing.
It would be embarrassing if they don't, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. It would be really embarrassing if they don't hit this and they go in, oh yeah, so we didn't reach our goal here.
Yeah, I think that it's a good change. I don't know. I had a conversation on Twitter about this where it's just like, I think that it is like somewhat greedy of them to cap it, but I also think they're a company and they need to like make money. So it's like, I don't really care. I'm happy that they're doing it either way. But some people were like super tilted that there's like a cap.
Well, here's the thing. Would you rather have this with a cap or not have it at all?
Of course,
I'd 100% rather have this.
You'd rather have this. So I don't know why. I mean, it's like people find the weirdest things to complain about sometimes. I agree. Not having a cap would be great, but I would still rather have this with a cap than nothing at all. Don't bite the hand that feeds you.
I mean, I do that all the time, so it's kind of whatever at this point. I always tread. What is it like? Tread
lightly.
Yeah, tread lightly.
Yeah, I don't know. I just I think it's super cool. I think it's great that they're gonna boost up I think it's great that they're boosting up the prize pool for masters and not grandmasters with this.
Yeah. Well, retroactively, it's like also grandmasters at the same time, but I know what you mean.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those things where giving it to the people that have been going through the open cups basically and winning through that is crazy to think about, and then putting in because isn't the Masters $250,000 in prize anyway before this?
Yeah. So I actually had a conversation with the person who's like in charge of this stuff about like privately, which it actually he kind of listened to what I didn't know about the cap part, but it was actually really cool to see the ideas that I had kind of not exactly come into place, but like it was a thing where he was like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. And it was kind of just like I really wanted to see them extend the prizes down further as opposed to making it top heavy.
Right.
And they did do that. So essentially, if they hit the 750,000, what that means for everybody playing in the event is that they're going to receive around $500 minimum, which is a pretty big deal. If you're one of those people that doesn't have a team that is struggling to get there, like you're paying
that almost pays for the trip.
Depends where you are. If you're from like the EU or Asia,
Correct.
It's like $2,000. But if you're from here, it'll pay for your hotel, which is a huge deal.
Yep.
Like that is super important. Whether or not Blizzard pays within 6 months, that's another story. But at the very least, like you're going to eventually see that money, and it's a huge deal to me that they didn't just make it top heavy to increase their I guess I would call it like increase their advertisement. Like if you advertise a tournament that has like a $500,000 pool, like 100,000 first place, that probably looks way better on a graphic than last place gets minimum 500, right? So I'm really happy that they kind of did the average Joe justice in this sense, where they're really trying to help out just the average player that's going to probably take a huge loss going to Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
As you always do going to Vegas.
Yeah, but usually, I guess you could say this is almost gambling, right? Like if you're taking $2,000 out of your pocket to go to Vegas, you're kind of gambling it going to the Hearthstone tournament. But this makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I agree. So no, that's all pretty cool. But the next item we wanted to talk about, I'm gonna leave this up to you, Ray, to kind of introduce this just a little bit. But you wanted to talk about how the Grandmasters League is going right now.
Yeah. So last week we saw that the nerfs were implemented. So Control Warrior, mirrors, stuff like that. Although they still did happen, they were significantly shorter, which was the goal. Like, I don't actually think the Elysiana nerfs change Warriors matchups much at all. It just makes it so the matchups where both players can go infinite Elysiana are just significantly shorter or heavily one-sided. And yeah, that was kind of the case. Rogue was still good. We saw that. Mage, there was a lot more deck diversity this past week. It wasn't just 13 warriors playing Warrior Mirror forever. It was a little bit more on schedule. There were some Warrior Mirrors, but like I said, didn't go as long. There was a lot more just people trying out different things than before, where before it was like, okay, Control Warrior and Mage and whatever, like these are just strictly far superior than everything else. These are the only things that people should play if they want to win. And obviously people want to win as Grandmasters, right? So we saw a little bit more diversity there. And this week, the nerfs or the buffs are going to be implemented for Grandmasters, which is really funny because they originally said that the buffs, they told the Grandmasters that the buffs weren't going to be in place for Grandmasters. So everybody has been practicing. And then today with the announcement, they're like, Grandmasters is using the buffs, by the way. And all the Grandmasters are just like, wait, what? You told us they weren't. And then they were like, oh, well, they told us they weren't.
JK.
But then the announcement goes live and now we are.
JK, guys. JK.
It seems like they're doing that a lot with Grandmasters. So it's like, hey, here's what we're doing. Oh, sorry, switching bait. It's the other thing.
Yeah, I think this week's going to be really exciting, though. It's definitely going to change up the meta for Vegas. I just feel like a lot of the average people are going to heavily be invested in this weekend's Grandmasters because deck lists are due the day before the tournament or the day before check-in. So the deck lists are due like Wednesday night or Thursday night. So for Las Vegas. So this weekend's Grandmasters is going to be a huge for how the metagame ends up playing out in Vegas. I'm interested to see, like, will Grandmasters hold back their big ideas or will they let them fire for Grandmasters and then just do whatever for Vegas? I don't know. I feel like they're going to hold their ideas for Vegas and play it safe for Grandmasters this weekend. But whatever they play is going to be highly, like, the eyes are going to be on those decks.
How does that affect your practicing?
I mean,
and
really,
your deck selection?
At the end of the day, it really doesn't, because I know the majority of Grandmasters are probably just kind of playing whatever for this weekend, you know? Like,
Yeah,
sure.
okay.
If somebody does have a deck that's like really out of left field that I didn't know about, I will be very surprised. If they decide to use this for Grandmasters this weekend, I will be very surprised. I feel like this weekend is a huge throwaway for 90% of the Grandmasters. Like, they're going to save their big, if that even exists, their big, like, secret deck.
Yeah, if there's a quarter creeper or something, like...
They're not playing it this weekend. No way. They're going to save it for Vegas. So it's not really affecting my prep, to be honest. It's unless something crazy happens, which I'm pretty sure that will not happen. Like, we're going to see stuff like Freeze Mage maybe, but that's already something that's coming up in like the pro discords and stuff like that. I know the new deck Freeze Mage, right, JR?
Yep, a brand new deck.
The brand new Freeze Mage deck. But like stuff like that, I just like, maybe we'll see that. Maybe like the general public will be like, oh, this is a new deck. But for me, like, I don't expect to be surprised. I don't expect it to change anything.
Interesting.
Personally.
So how many people are going to be in Masters? Do you know?
You mean the tournament?
Like, participating. Yeah.
They expect around 300.
Okay. I was just curious.
Could be more, could be less. We don't really have any idea. They're expecting around like 300 though, so that's what I would assume. I mean, it's gonna be a good time either way.
Is that what, an 8-9 round Swiss?
Dude, I have no idea. I've heard it's like 15, like something crazy.
That's nuts.
Like, it keeps changing, so I don't know. I have no idea what the tour. I'm just gonna show up with my decks, play, and see how it goes.
Are spectators allowed in?
Nope.
Didn't think so.
That
Nope.
seems just so silly.
It does. I agree. I mean, there are a lot of people who want to go to Vegas to watch the tournament,
right?
whatever. But
that's the perfect place to do it, right? Where people would go to Vegas for a Hearthstone event because then you can do a bunch of other things afterwards. If I don't know,
I was almost considering getting a flight to go out to Vegas next week to go watch it until you just told me that. Like I was seriously sitting here going, I don't have anything going on next week. Maybe I'll go to Vegas. Nope, not going to happen now.
I mean,
that'd be sick. I'd go.
There is a spectator area that is not in the venue that we are playing at. There's I don't know what they call it. It's kind of like a fireside. No, it's like a fireside at a bar kind of thing where spectators can go, and it's there will be Blizzard people running that fireside kind of thing, but it won't actually be at the. I don't understand why they don't just let people in the venue. It's not like a dream hack where you can just be there and watch. All the pros are not gonna go out of the venue, go to another place to then watch the tournament where they were just at, where they could just watch it live there. Plus there's side events for only players. There's a bunch of side events, but only for players. So it's we have no reason to actually go and leave the venue to go to this fireside place, which is ideally why a lot of people would want to go. They want to go to see and hang out with their friends that are playing, but the incentives for us actually leaving the place that we're playing, it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's disappointing to me because I know I had a lot of friends who were considering going, and then I'm just yeah, no, there's no spectators. So
I was literally just sitting here considering going. Now, nope, no interest. None.
But you could go to the party and meet all the grandmasters. There's a pool party the day before. You get to meet all the grandmasters, JR.
Well, here's the problem, Ray. Those socially awkward nerds aren't gonna talk to this socially awkward nerd. So...
I agree with some of them. Well, people like Orange and Purple, they'll be happy to talk to you. But you want to try to talk to Clento? Good luck, buddy.
That would be hilarious.
I mean, you can talk to him, but he might not talk back.
Here's the problem: is I'm socially awkward in those situations too, so I wouldn't even be going up to them to begin with. I'm terrible at those kind of events. I'm awful. It's just not for me. Just not for me.
I mean, I'm just excited for Insom getting absolutely hammered and then starting crap with everyone. That's what he said he's gonna do. He literally posted Discord I'm just excited to just get drunk and just fling shit everywhere.
Oh,
it's great. Where the internet trolls meet the Blizzard. Oh man, it's gonna be a good time. I'm excited.
I'll believe it when I see it. I find those people.
Yeah, next week Hearthstone is canceled.
Yeah.
No, that never happens. People are always completely different in real life.
Yep.
No, of course.
Exactly.
Except for me, I'm pretty much the same. That's what I've been told. I've been told I'm pretty similar. But people like trolls and stuff. They're always different in real life.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
It disappoints me.
Yep.
Because I'm just I'm ready. I'm hyped for this. I can't wait to meet this person. They've been talking so much crap, and then you meet them, and you're wow.
They're normally
say something. Come on.
They're normally very socially awkward in themselves. Yep.
I just try to poke the bear, and then the bear's just asleep.
Yep. but they'll talk a good talk 2 hours later on Twitter. So.
I mean, yeah. That's how it goes.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm a different breed, I guess.
So anyway, we had some emails this week. Do you guys wanna go over these?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Well, I don't know if we're gonna get to them all. We are kind of starting to run out of time. So, if you send us an email, we will, and I don't get to it, we'll read it next week. You got 3 emails, and if you want to email us, definitely do so. wellmet@blizzpro.com. That's where you email us, and we love this part of the show. I was so excited that we got 3.
Same.
I want to see more. So, the first email we got is from someone named Lex, and they said, "Hey, WellMetcast. I've been a huge fan since Danny and Ray joined the show. It was really neat meeting the hosts of yesteryear in the road to 200 episodes. Anyway, the show is typically very grounded, talking about the potential future of the Hearthstone game. I was wondering if you might deviate a bit from that and potentially talk about the past of Hearthstone. What you think Blizzard got right and got wrong at the start of the game. Features, mechanics that should have been initial staples of the game, anything that should not have been in the initial segment of the game, etc. Anyway, thanks again. I really enjoy the show's insight into the game. It's kept me engaged in Hearthstone during moments when I was thinking about quitting. So that's an interesting email. They want to hear us talk about, maybe do a segment about the past of the game. What Blizzard has done right or wrong. What should have been. I don't know. What do you guys think about this? You think we can do something like this sometime?
Yeah. I'm a very opinionated person, so I have a lot of opinions, Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things that they could have done out of the gate that would have improved the game significantly to what it is now that they still haven't done.
Give me an example.
Oh geez. Now you're putting me on the spot.
So spectator mode, you can just start off with spectator mode,
right?
Be able to spectate someone's arena draft, be able to go through and like actually not have to flip the cards in their hand, in the opponent's hand. Like there are a couple things that you could do just for quality of life for that.
Yes.
I mean, we're beating on a lot of these things we do say a lot. Like we have I don't know, tournament mode and everything. But I mean, one of the things that I saw from this, right? So some of the features and mechanics that one of the things I'm actually really happy that Hearthstone has is the fatigue mechanic. That's something that people don't really talk that much about, but I mean, maybe it's because I've been playing a lot more control matchups recently, and it goes to 1 or 2 ticks of fatigue, and like that matters. And I mean, I've been playing Magic recently, and it's like, oh, well, I burned through my entire deck. I guess I lose. Where it's like that the fatigue becomes a resource in itself. I think that's actually really clever.
Yeah, that's not something that we even think about as Hearthstone players. Is like, in every other game, when you deck out, you lose the game immediately. Whereas with fatigue, you can have a game plan that allows you to cycle through your deck and then not immediately lose. Like Myra's Unstable Element is like the best example of that. Like with Rogue, you can Myra's and then you have like probably 5 turns before you fatigue out, which is actually a lot of time once you've just drawn 5+ cards in 1 turn. So
yeah. So no, spectator mode was a big thing that I was thinking about, and in fact, it still irritates me to this day that spectator mode is still just royally messed up, in my opinion. Especially if you're trying to do any kind of tournament yourself and trying to do a production of that. Everybody has a workaround that they have to do for production of that, and it's annoying. Like I feel like that should be built into the game.
Right.
But then, but just think of quality of life stuff. As far as being able to like filter your collection, the changes they have created for that over time. They've made that like way better than what it used to be. And then the other thing is being able to share decks. Like when they added that feature, that was a game changer. But something like that, I feel should have absolutely have been in the game from the beginning.
Do you think that affected the metagame to a degree where now people are like, to the degree where you can literally just copy the decks and like you have a deck code and do that? Do you think that affected it? Or like, I mean, people were posting on Twitter beforehand, people were posting like images of the decks, and you could always go through. I did this countless number of times where I would pull up Twitter and then I would I'd alt tab between Hearthstone and Twitter, and then I'd go and build a deck.
Right.
I mean, I still do that, so I don't even like really ever use the codes.
I use the code all the time.
I use them very rarely because I feel like I see a picture and then I take a screenshot of it on my phone, and then I'll like pull up my phone and then I'll do it. Like I rarely ever go to Twitter and then go on like somebody's Twitter. Like I'll never like save a tweet in my head. You know what I mean? Like I'll never be like, oh, let's go to this tweet. I'll always just like screenshot it on my phone as soon as I see it, and then like 2 days later, I'll be like, oh, I want to try this deck. Let me bring up my phone, and then I just do it manually.
See, usually for me, it's I see a deck, and I'm like, I kind of want to play that right now, and I'll just copy it and put it in my my deck list and then go play. That like 9 times out of 10, that's normally how it works for me. It's not I see something and I might play it later. I usually want to play it right then.
I think it depends what kind of Hearthstone player you are. Like for me, I play on mobile so much more than I play on my computer. And I feel like if I played on my desktop, I would definitely use that feature infinitely more than I do. But like since I play on my phone so much, it's like it's much more awkward.
I'm the opposite. I solely play on my computer. I hardly ever play on mobile.
Yeah. But for me, for this question, I'm thinking more of like a game point of view, like the actual cards. Like I think something that they have yet to fully eradicate is charge. Like clearly they have stated that that was kind of a mistake in the game, but yet they still have cards like Leroy, and they have cards like even Stone Trust Boris became a huge issue for a while.
Right.
It's stuff like that where you're just like, man, this has been an issue forever and it's still just lingering. And then
well, and think about like silence, like other than the initial classic set, like they don't really do much with silence, or if they do anything with silence, it's very targeted.
Yeah, like Owl was nuts back in the day, right? Like I think
it got nerfed,
I think that a lot of the mechanics that they initially introduced, like they didn't understand how the balance of it. Obviously, like you look at all the things that've been nerfed over time. You look at prep, you look at wild growth, you look at innervate, you look at like all these cards that have been just really, really strong. I mean, that's what it is, right? They just didn't understand the balance of how to affect their game, not only in like the time period that they were doing it in, but they weren't really. I mean, you can't really plan out for 4 or 5 years in the future when you're starting the game. You got to get off the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think silence was an issue though at first. Like there wasn't that many good silence targets. Silence became an issue once Nax came out and Death Rattle got introduced.
Right.
Like Death Rattle wasn't really like it was a thing, but it wasn't really popular. Like it was on Sylvanas and it was on a few cards, but it wasn't like as big as it got after Nax came out. Like Silence became huge once they introduced a huge wave of Death Rattle cards. So like the cards became broken because of things that they printed. They weren't broken in the original base set or for some of the cards.
I think that as you introduce more and more things, as soon as you introduce more and more things into the game, silence becomes better, right? Because effects on cards like will always, like if you can silence an effect, like that's super strong.
Yeah. And then there were obviously busted cards like Gadget Sin and whatnot that ended up getting nerfed just because they were too powerful. But I think that they just need to be consistent, and they keep consistently failing at being consistent. Like the most recent example of this is they were talking about how specific draw cards are too powerful, right? Like they nerfed Raiding Party because specific draw cards were too powerful. But then in the next week, they buffed Crystology. Like what? That is...
Well, I agree with that. I agree but I can see from their perspective, right? Where Paladin is the least played class or whatever.
But it's not. It's like the Paladin was already seeing play. Like the Shirvala Paladin, Holy Wrath Paladin was already seeing a lot of play in Grandmasters. It was tier 2 before this buff. Like, I don't know. I think that completely is contradictory. Like, don't say that specific draw is too powerful and then immediately contradict yourself the next week. Like at least word it differently.
Yeah, no, I think that is all on the person who wrote that description up. No offense to whoever they are, but I think they got it wrong rather than the person. Like the designers probably have an alternative motive behind it, but they're not going to say, all right, well, we nerfed Raiding Party because we're going to put a dope ass pirate in the next expansion. And like we have to nerf this, and this is something that we could potentially hit with the nerfs, so it'll just make Rogue less powerful overall. So we'll do it, and then it'll help us out later down the line. Like that's not what they're gonna write in their. That's what they're not gonna release that information. So we're not working with all the pieces of the puzzle. But I do agree, the person who wrote that out and say, hey, targeted card draw is doing this is bad for the game, and then just the Crystology stuff. I would bet that the person who wrote that explanation didn't know the buffs were coming.
That would be pretty hilarious. I'm not gonna lie, that would be pretty.
Yeah,
fun.
I would bet that they went in there like, "Are you kidding me?" The person says, "All right, now we got to write all this stuff for these buffs that are coming out. Surprise!" And they're like, "Are you kidding me? I just wrote that targeted draw was bad."
Yeah, you're like, what are you guys doing? You're making me look like an idiot.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think if we do this segment sometime, it would be a really good one. We should we'll definitely consider this because there's a lot of good stuff I could see us talking about. I did want to answer one of his questions. What do we think Blizzard got right from the beginning? And I think it's the fact that the game itself is very simple, very quick to understand, very easy to pick up, and just kind of fun to look at. And because it's fun to look at, it's very easy to understand how to interact within the game. And that is something that I think no other card game has ever gotten right.
I agree. Coming from somebody who's played every single online card game, even before Hearthstone came out, I played Moto, I played Pokemon Online. I've played every card game that exists. And Hearthstone, the first thing that I noticed about Hearthstone was I don't know if fluidity is the right word, but like how smooth it was, and like the fact that you could pick up a card and like move it around, and it makes that little like, I don't know if like a fairy noise is like the best way to put it, but
yeah, it has a little tingling sound.
And then you can, when you attack, you click it and you drag it, which is, it sounds really small, but it feels very satisfying to click and drag stuff. Whereas with other card games, it's like click and then click on the opponent, and then it's like I don't know, for some reason, clicking and dragging stuff feels really good compared to just click and then click the enemy. No. I don't know why, but like when I first started playing Hearthstone, like being able to click a pyroblast in my hand and like drag it around my opponent's face 20 times before I eventually let it go to kill them, man.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. There are a ton of little things like that where like the cards are in your hand, and then if you go over to a card, like the things that you don't recognize is that the card gets slightly bigger, the other cards move out of the way. Like the little aesthetic things is what Blizzard killed at in the beginning.
Yeah.
I think that the way that they set this thing up where you have the board and the board is just the right size for the minions, you have the cap there. And then, like, when you're attacking with a minion, when you click on the minion, it makes the sound effect of it attacking. So that if you're going through and you click and drag towards the target, then in the action of you doing that, by the time you like click face or wherever, your minion is just starting its like sound animation. So it sounds like you're like having your minion go into battle. Like it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the fact that I can look at a card and know exactly what it does. And for the most part, like sometimes there's a handful of things where maybe I don't understand correctly at the first time I look at something, but you can kind of just understand, okay, what is this card going to do for me, right? I find that in other card games, it's sometimes a little more difficult to really wrap your mind around on some cards, whereas Hearthstone tends to do a really good job of keeping that pretty simple up front.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've tried playing Magic without actually knowing Magic, and you feel like you're reading a book half the time, and it's actually miserable.
Yes.
Like if I had not known about Magic, like if I had not played Magic previously, like I don't know how Danny just picks it up and then doesn't feel just like so crappy just having to read everything. Like not only do you have to learn the rules, then you have to read all the cards. Like for me, half the cards are reprints in all the sets. Like I already know what everything does, and I know what all the mechanics are. But if you don't, you're reading a textbook.
So there is a lot of that when I'm playing Magic. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I understand the majority of the cards now, and I think that like for the set before I came in, whatever Ravnica or whatever, like when I went in, like I didn't know any of the cards, and like legitimately every single game in the beginning, I was like, okay, I play a minion. Okay, my opponent played a minion. Let me mouse over it, figure out what it does. And then a lot of the things were just like not intuitive. Like I didn't understand how like double strike worked. And like I understand, I didn't recognize immediately that it was like, I'm like, oh, does it deal double the damage that it's like health has or something? Yeah. And like I had to figure all that type of stuff out. Whereas like maybe some of that stuff in Hearthstone is very similar, but I think that a lot of the keywords really represent, like if you say echo on a card, like I can kind of understand what echo is as a mechanic intuitively. Right. Like if you have like taunt, I totally get that.
Yep.
Divine Shield. All right, I gotcha.
I don't know. I feel like the one thing that Hearthstone really messed up, at least for me, was when I was a beginner, was they didn't actually teach you anything about how the interactions of the game work, like how Death Rattle works when multiple Death Rattles go off at once.
Right.
I never understood that with Sylvanas.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
And they changed it too. They
do they explain that now? Like, do they have a tutorial?
No,
it's
but they
not a
changed.
tutorial.
But they changed. At one point, they changed how like the order of operations worked, though.
Right.
Really?
As a new player, do they actually? Because me, when I was beginning,
they don't have a rule book that explains it all.
Like they just
they do have a rule. There is a. I'm not sure if it's a player created rule book, but there is a rule book that you could go through and kind of like the rule book of Magic. You can go through and read it and understand that that does exist on the internet. It just no one reads it because everyone's learned it so far.
Well,
they didn't used to have it. If they do have it now,
they don't. I mean, they probably still had an unofficial one back then too, but like they don't have it in the client, and that really bothers me because as somebody who was a new player at one point, as all of us were, it's like it takes a while for you to figure that stuff out. Even how many minions are on the board, they don't even tell you that. Like it took me a little while to even figure out that you could only have 7 minions on board.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's really, really random things.
I was just bringing that up though because on the flip side, like look at like Artifact. Like I played through the tutorial on Artifact and I still didn't get it, and I'm just like, this game is stupid.
I mean,
and then you just hated the game, right?
Well,
I don't know.
Are you really gonna beat the dead horse?
Yeah.
I mean, no.
I mean, their Twitch channels are blowing up now, right?
Oh my god, Danny, please stop.
No, so I don't know. I feel that part of it with Hearthstone though is that they give you enough in the tutorial to understand how to play the game, and there's an element of discovery in Hearthstone where it's like, for a lot of the times it's like, oh, there's this mechanic, I wonder how it works, and so it's like, oh, I will build a deck around it, let's see if that works is like what I think it does. How does Pyromancer work with I don't know, with Acolyte of Pain or whatever? What happens if I go and I do something that'll generate 2 things? Like I find a lot of those moments where like the rules aren't super obvious. Like I find those really cool where I try it out and it's like, oh, well, great, I just learned this thing that I'm gonna use later on, or oh, it didn't work like I expected. Great, I'll remember that for later. Maybe I just have a positive spin on it, but I think that that's not a bad thing per se.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that the type of player that I am, it really is, it leans itself a little bit towards me. And there's someone who's just trying to go through and just understand everything completely, like straight from the bat, they're not going to like that.
Yeah, for me, it's just like a waste. Like, why are you wasting my time? Just give me the rules. Come on. Like, don't make me play tough games to figure out stupid interactions. I should already have the rules for. Come on, Blizzard. But I'm also a very different player than most people.
So the next email we got, and this will be the last one we answer. We won't get to the third one. This came from a guy called Jim. So Jim said, "Hey guys, I love the show. My question is, what do you do when Hearthstone starts to feel stale? For me, playing new archetypes seems to help, and I'm wondering what else you do to stay engaged midway through an expansion. Keep up the great work on the show. For me, I just go play something else. That's what I do. That's real. Like I don't have to feel like I have to play Hearthstone all the time. There's lots of other games that I'm very interested in, so I'll go play those. And I'll come back to Hearthstone when I feel like playing it again. I mean, that's really what it boils down to for me.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I guess I have Magic now to some extent that I'll play when I get bored of Hearthstone, but for the most part, if I want to keep playing Hearthstone, like I'll do something like try out new decks or like just play bad decks, or sometimes I just get in this mood where I'm just enjoying being high ranked, and like I will have this goal that I want to get like top 10 legend to, like I just want to see how high I can go if I really just try and put my all into it. And for me, that achievement is fun and keeps the game fresh on some level. Like being able to get to that high level is in itself entertaining, even if the games themselves might be repetitive or monotonous or boring. It's like that the achievement is what makes it worth it for me.
I'm gonna answer for Danny here. Danny's answer is going to be he plays Wild, and it never gets stale, right, Danny?
So I literally was going to start off my thing. I play Wild, so no. So the thing is that I do feel that there's a lot of unexplored potential in there. And what I'll do is I'll take some idea from 3 years ago and see if I can make it into a new deck today with all this stuff. So that's something that I like to do. I like to go back to the past of the game, see, I did this actually yesterday. I went through and I was like, I haven't played a Reno Priest for a while. So I went through, all right, so what cards in this expansion make Reno Priest good? And then I went through and then I put the cards in the deck and I tried to do it. And then ultimately, most of the time, it ends up with me having the list from the previous expansion. But sometimes I'll tinker around with a couple other cards here and there. That's what I like to do, though. I like to go in and play around with cards that might be on the fringe of like being good, seeing how they interact with other cards, taking a package out. Oh, I want to play the Nazoth package. I want to go in and play something else. Like, I think that type of thing is cool. Like in Reno Lock, I was trying out the Leroy Jenkins Power Overwhelming Faceless combo recently, and I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, but then I realized Void Lord was a card, and and I wasn't so happy at that point.
No, it wasn't so cool anymore. All right. So the other email we got was from Craig, but we're gonna answer that next week. So Craig, if you're listening, we'll get to your email next week. If anybody else wants to email us, just email us wellmet@blizzpro.com. I think it's time to get out of here. Yeah. So Patreon, like we talked about earlier in the show, and when you heard at the beginning of the show, we're doing a special offer in the month of June for new and existing patrons at the $5 tier or higher. We have a sticker that you will get next month, and for all new and existing patrons at any level, you'll be entered into a raffle to win a free hour coaching session from the co-host of your choice. So if you want to do that, just head over to patreon.com/wellmetpodcast and check that out, and it'll be a good time. There were no new iTunes reviews this week. However, if you would like to give one, just head over to iTunes, do a search for Hearthstone. You'll find Wellmet there, and give us a 5-star review there. I need to change this because Apple just announced not too long ago, in fact just a couple days ago, they're getting rid of iTunes. So iTunes is going away at some point. It's going to become Apple Podcasts will be the thing that you'll want to do. But beyond that, we are on other platforms. So if you want to find us on Spotify, you can find us there. If you have any other podcast application, you can just grab our RSS feed over at hearthstone.blizzpro.com. So you can go and do that. Unfortunately, it's just reviews are very simple to pull from iTunes. That's why we're doing that. But I might have to change that up here pretty soon.
We're on Spotify too, right? Do you get reviews on Spotify, or is that?
I would have to look. I don't believe so. I'd have to look. So, but yeah, Spotify is definitely a thing. Yeah. So shout outs, and how can people get in contact with you, Ray?
Shout outs to my doctors, giving me the good stuff to get me better for Vegas.
Yeah.
Also shout outs to my teammate Nakil, who had cancer, and we had a fundraiser for him.
Yeah.
That's actually why I was streaming the other day, and I actually did really well with Pogo-Rogo. So if you want to see like how that deck wins against aggro and stuff, I would actually recommend you go watch that stream. And it was a pretty educational stream. I mean, there's a lot of donations coming in, so there's a lot of just random, hey, thank you for helping save my teammate from dying of cancer kind of stuff. But yeah, that was shout outs to him for living. He lived living. I'm like, it was actually really funny. The Panda Global, the Twitter was just like, Racy's gonna kick off the stream because he's the cancer survivor. He's gonna teach the youngins how it's done.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's
No,
pretty cool.
I saw that you guys raised like 13,000, I believe. That's what it was.
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
In my like time frame, I actually got to 3,000. It was around 3,000, which was pretty crazy.
That's pretty cool.
For I don't know, I didn't expect that. It was really nice that they did that for him, and it definitely made me proud to be on Panda Global. Like, that kind of stuff is just heartwarming to me.
Yeah.
Because I know that they would do that for me if I was in that position as well.
Panda
So-
Global seems like a really, really good organization. I everything that comes from them, I've been pretty impressed with over other organizations for sure. Like, I'm a fan.
They're the
I'm a
homies.
fan. Yeah.
Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Racy591, Twitter @PG_Racy. Send me some good vibes so I can get better for Vegas, because that'll be next Wednesday is when I'm leaving. So there'll probably be a show next Monday, but maybe not. Depends how if I get delayed or not. If not, then maybe it'll be next Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, next week we'll have a show on Monday. You're talking about the week
2
following.
weeks. Oh my gosh, I'm so
Yeah.
dumb. Yeah. 2 weeks. You right.
Yeah.
You got me there.
So Danny, how about you?
So I no longer have the scapegoat of being able to thank the guests on the show. So I this week I do want to thank you guys, because I've had a really stressful week, and it's just nice to be able to unwind and talk about Hearthstone for a while. Like,
for
at
sure.
work, a server literally caught on fire.
Oh.
So, I've had a crazy week.
Oh, that's not fun. That's gonna be my next week. Like, starting next week through the end of July, I'm probably gonna go insane. So be on the lookout for that. As for me, I want to give a shout out to all of the people that took the time to email us this week. I love it when you guys email us. I love answering your emails. I definitely want to see more. So if you want to hear us answer your question, definitely do that. wellmet@blizzpro.com. And if you want to find me over on Twitter, @Eldorian is where I am at. So anyway, thanks for joining us for episode 201 of Well Met. You can find more awesome Hearthstone content throughout the week over at hearthstone.blizzpro.com, not hearthpwn.com. You can also tweet us @WellMetPodcast or email us wellmet@blizzpro.com with comments, questions, and ideas that you have for the show. Thanks to Jake Butnu for our amazing intro music. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.